Okay, now that all the big jobs, for now, appear to have been taken care of on the Beamer, it's now time to just focus in on some of the smaller things which aren't quite perfect on it, but which need a little bit of attention. So whilst I was poking around in the engine bay earlier in the week, just checking on things, looking for problems, you know, as you do, the subject of fluid sitting in the top of the valve cover where the injectors sit sort of come up again, because before any of the timing chain snapped and we had the head off and all the rest of it, there was always a little bit of what I thought was either fuel or oil sort of seeping around where the injectors go in. Now it's back again now. Now it shouldn't be, because all the seals are new around the valve cover. Gasket seals are all new, the injector seals are all new. So why is it there? So I had a little prod around and I'll show you what we're going to sort out now. It's a dead easy fix, and it's fuel, by the way. It's not oil, it's fuel. So I'll show you where it's coming from now.
Okay, so this one's a dead easy fix. Let's open the bonnet and have a little look. Now, there's a smell in the cabin of diesel fumes, and it's never one solution, but in this case, it appears that it's a leaking return connection. So these are sometimes called the leak off pipes, leak off connections. These are the return lines. So when the diesel fuel is fed to the injector via this line here, when there's surplus fuel, obviously the demand is increasing and decreasing all the time while you're driving. The surplus fuel gets fed back along this common line all the way down to the end there and gets fed back to the fuel tank. So if you have a leak, sometimes these are quite prone to crack, these tubes here. Now my car isn't really old enough for that to be an issue. I've had a good look, and the tubing is quite flexible still and is not cracked. But what I have got a problem with is, and I think it's actually this injector number 2 appears. I'll just rub my thumb on there. I don't know if you can quite see that or not. Injector number 2 has a bad O-ring, and the seal, as this pushes into the injector, is leaking fuel out, and then we're getting a little bit of a, I don't know, it's not quite focusing, is it? A little bit of fuel pooling up around the injectors, but it appears to only be coming from injector number 2. So let's get it off and get the O-ring changed. That's where these come in. This fix is going to set you back £3.39 for a set of little O-rings. So I actually only need to change one, but you can change them all if you want. So let's get it done. I'll show you how. So first things first, what we're going to do is remove the airbox, remove the tubing for the air supply across the top there. We're going to take this off, and we're going to get a lot better access into the fuel rail and the injectors. So let's do that now, as if by magic. Ta-da! As if by magic. That literally takes 2 minutes just to whip that off. If you don't know how to do that, it'll be in one of my other videos. Yeah, dead easy. Basically undo that, take the air filter out, lift the assembly out, pull that off, blah 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 blah, easy peasy. Right, now I actually had a little look in here and soaked up all of the fuel gathering around the bottoms of the fuel injectors. Can you see that? I don't know if you can. The engine's actually quite hot at the minute because I drove the car about half an hour ago. I don't know how well that's shown up on video, but basically I can see there is a pool of fuel sitting around each of these injectors, and I don't know if you can quite see how wet that injector is around the edges there. So all this, that's diesel. So I can tell you it's coming from here. So I'm going to take this out and show you the O-ring in a second. But first we need to absorb and wipe away all that fuel that's sat there, because that, when the engine gets hot, is just evaporating and making a nasty, horrible, oily diesel smell around the whole of the engine bay. And it's been pulled in through your ventilation. So that's why you'll be smelling nasty diesel fumes or exhaust fumes as it comes across, as it sometimes smells like. So let's get it cleaned up, get the O-ring changed, and have a nice easy fix. Okay, so all we're going to do now is get paper towel and stuff it down around the injectors and soak up loads of this diesel. And we're going to do that around each of these. Now obviously you get far better access if you were to remove all these injector clamps. I'm going to suggest you don't do that because you don't really want to be unseating the injector seals once you take the clamps off. So leave them well alone. Just try and get in, clean it up as much as you can, absorb it, maybe even spray a little bit of you know, degreaser or something like that to just try and get the last drops of it cleaned up as well. And you know, any liquidy remnants that are in there, you don't really want them in there because they're just going to stink up the place. So let's get all that mopped up and then we can actually get the seal fixed. Okay, so while you've got your paper towel, absorbing that's one of your handy tools to just sort of poke it down into the little recess around the injectors. Let that diesel absorb and then we'll pull that out and give it a little clean off, and then we're going to use a pair of pliers and we're going to pull this connector out. I must admit, it's not obvious if you've never taken these off how you remove this without breaking this plastic clip, but it's dead easy. I'll show you in a sec. Okay, this is the second lot of bags that have just come out. Just pull it out and just see how much you're absorbing. Nearly got it all, I think, now. Yeah, it's quite a bit there actually. So yeah, continue getting as much of it out. There you go, loads there still. Get as much of it out as you can. And yeah, we'll do one more thing and give it a bit of a clean up. And nearly okay, no complicated tools needed here. Just get yourself a moderate size pair of pliers, maybe even needle nose pliers, just wide enough to grip the brownie coloured bit. I'm going to start with the end one here. You just need to pull it up ever so gently, not too hard, just so it starts. Oops, there you go, that's me pulling too hard. Don't pull that hard. Okay, you'll get a little bit of diesel coming off from around the connection as you pull it off, but only a few drops. So that one's off. I'll pull this one up just gently, give it a wiggle, there you go. As you pull it, the whole thing will just come out like that. And then you can see here what we're dealing with. So this is your little sort of T-piece connection. This brown coloured O-ring is what we're going to replace. And the same on this one here. You should do them all. Since I've got a set of 6, might as well do them all. And then we know we're going to get the fuel returning properly. One of the problems I said before you get with slightly older cars is that this fuel line here gets a bit brittle and starts to crack, and then your leaks are actually coming from the hose rather than the connection. But in this case, I already checked it out and I know that this O-ring has got a bit baggy basically and it isn't sealing properly. So that's what we're going to do, take it off. So yeah, you can see this is the O-rings that we're talking about that needs removing, and I'm just going to see which bits on the Swiss Army knife can just hook it up and get it removed. There we go. Well, I hope the new one's fixed. I've broke this one. And that's the point. The old ones, being old, will be more brittle. So they probably are inclined to snap when you're taking them off, since they're so dainty anyway. So here's one of the old ones. It's actually hard to see on the video because I've not got a microscope, but it's actually slightly cracked, and perhaps that's contributing to it. Anyway, that's one that came off whole, so it's going to replace that one for the leaky one. That's injector number 2. So we're going to stick a new one on there and see how that goes. I'll start the engine up in a second, we'll see what it looks like, because it leaks straight away, literally within, you know, seconds of starting the car. You can see diesel weeping from around the top of the injector here, so it's all nice and dry at the moment, so we'll know straight away if there's any leakage with the new ones. Okay, here's our new seal. Here's injector leak off number 2. Let's just hook him over, push him on. There we go. There you go. Pushing the brown pin back down is what locks them in place. Don't know if you can quite see from where I had the camera there. Yeah, when you push this back down and it clicks, that means it's in and it won't come out now. Just reposition you. Okay, this is injector number 2. This is the leaky one. So right now, it's nice and dry. There is no diesel or oily residue around there at all. And I'll just make sure the same, you can't see it, but injector number 1 is just over here. Just going to give that a little clean as well, make sure no signs there. Just going to go and start the car and see whether we get anything that needs mopping up.